What's up, creators? Director Oatts here with Just Create the Brand. For the people who are new here, welcome to my channel. For people who have been here before, welcome back. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, I want to start off by saying, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Link below. We'll be having more reviews, BTS videos, and pretty much all the behind the scenes of what I have going on here with Just Create the Brand. So today, we're here today because I wanted to talk to you guys and just kind of give you an insight on one of my recent projects that I just finished working on. I was fortunate enough to be blessed with an opportunity and a new partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and Papa John's. Just to bring you in before we talk about the process of the production, as you guys know, we do shoot a podcast called The Real Mama Pod. The Real Mama Pod is a podcast that's centered around motherhood and just all the ins and outs, the ups and downs that come with being a mother. Shout out to Kendra and Devin. That's gang for sure, for sure. Once I seen their podcast for the first time, I had already said, okay, that's my group, that's who I'm gonna record with. So we've been sticking it in, through and through as they've been going through revamp of their process for their podcast. And Kendra actually works for the Boys and Girls Club. As we grew our relationship and she just seeing how I work and how I'm passionate about production, somebody actually asked Kendra about, did they know anybody who was into production and could shoot projects and campaigns and things like that. So, just over time, by us growing our relationship, she presented me with the opportunity. It was exciting for me because outside of the short film that I shot, this was another opportunity for me to staff a team. This was an opportunity for me to produce content and not only just be the director of the shoot, but also to be inside of the production process from beginning to end. It was exciting for me. I'm gonna run you through the whole process of how everything went. I don't remember what day it was, but it was a normal day. I was up and I was just checking emails and I got an email from the Boys and Girls Club and they say, hey, we're working on this project. We're working on two projects. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to cultivate a campaign video for it. So, we had preliminary conversations and what they were explaining was they have a campaign or they have a program that they do yearly and it's called the Youth of the Year. And so the Youth of the Year project is a project that is nationally, it's done every year nationally, and they break the Youth of the Year down into regions and sections. And so they have students who apply to become the Youth of the Year, and they have oratorical contests, they write prompts, they write scripts, they do various activities to just showcase their talent and, put themselves in the best position to get scholarship funding. And, the winner of the Youth of the Year, they get an opportunity to have a tricked out Toyota. So they get to get a Toyota and build it up from scratch. So the program it's a very, very, very extensive but good program to be a part of. And, me being a part of the community which had a Boys and Girls Club, you go there, you have fun, you go get your little hot pockets, you play basketball, XYZ, but just understanding as I get older that they have advanced some of these programs and some of these incentives for students to connect and collaborate and just further their own dreams as, and things that they want to do. We had the preliminary calls and they explained what the Youth of the Year was and, how they wanted to go about presenting the campaign. And we were tasked with shooting two projects at one time, but Project A or Project 1, we were going to film, produce, do the post-production and complete that project. But for Project 2, we were only recording, you're getting the footage for Project 2. Essentially, Project 2 was going to be a smaller piece out inside of a bigger project. It was just interesting and I was excited because we had to be very strategic because we had to figure out how we were going to shoot two projects at one time and deliver multiple deliverables. For me, it was exciting because we'll start at the pre-production process. So this was the first time this year, not the first time that I've done it, but this is the first time this year that I was tasked with cultivating a staff. If you guys know, I've been in production this year, we going on 10 years. I've had the opportunity, to work independently. I've had the opportunity to be a part of teams. I've had the opportunity to do various things. And outside of me shooting my short film, which was the biggest staff that I was fortunate enough to work with, it was a crew of almost about 10, 12 people. I hadn't had an opportunity to cultivate a team like that since then, because usually I work in more of an intimate setting, intimate space. Because I was the point of contact, they used my company for the staffing of the project. That was my job. I was essentially the producer and the director. I had to start off with scouting and figuring out who I wanted to be my cinematographer, who I wanted to be my production assistant, what all areas needed to be staffed to complete the project. I started off with my production assistant, which is Stephanie. Stephanie is amazing. I was explaining her the project, and she actually lives in Orlando. And so I was explaining the project, and I was like, "Oh, I wish you were able to come in town to do it." And she said, "Don't test me. Like, all I gotta do is look up a flight and I'm there." And so I think it was so funny how everything organically happened, because she literally manifested her own opportunity right then in that moment. I said, "Well, look it up and let me know." So, we looked it up, everything aligned, and like that, boom, I had my PA. For me, being in this position where I am working with a vendor for the first time, it was kind of like having two girlfriends. And the reason why I say that is because on one end, you want to make sure that you are servicing your client and you're giving them everything that they need so that they could have an enjoyable experience. But then also too, on the production side, as a director and as a producer, you want to make sure that you're not burning out your team. You want to make sure that you are delivering an amazing product, but then at the end of the day, the people who are a part of the project are not like, "Oh no, I ain't never going back. I ain't never working with them no more. They worked us for 10 hours straight and didn't even give us a bag of chips, water, nothing like that." So that was very important for me. Chemistry was going to be a tricky thing because it was our first time working together in that capacity. But the team that I wanted to cultivate, I wanted to make sure that the comfortability was there, that everybody there was comfortable. They knew the assignment, they knew what their roles were, and that they didn't have to second guess anything. And I think that was one of the more important factors for me when it came to cultivating a staff. Is I wanted to make sure that everybody had an enjoyable experience. After I had got Stephanie on the team, then I was like, okay, next on the checklist, boom. So then now, after we've had, our preliminary conversations about what the budget consists of, I knew how big or how small I needed to make my team. So with the budget that was given to me, I knew that I was going to be able to staff at least another cinematographer. And then also I knew that I needed behind the scenes documentation as well too. I was contemplating back and forth for a day or two. Did I want to have two cinematographers and I just direct the whole thing and don't touch the camera at all? Or did I want to be a camera operator as well and assist another camera op? And so it'll just be one camera op, me, a PA, and then the behind the scenes person. After looking at the prices of the people who I wanted to reach out to and having conversations, I did decide that I wanted to still feel what it was like to be a camera operator in this type of setting as well too. So I negated having two camera operators and I said, you know what? I'll be the other camera operator and I'll just have one main camera operator, which is Colleen, if you know her. That's my girl. She did an amazing job. You'll see some footage of her as I talk throughout this process as well too. And it was our first time working together as well too. But I had to make that decision because sometimes in production, you want to have this grand staff. You want to be able to service every individual job with their own person. And sometimes via budget, via time, via space, via location, there are a lot of factors that go into it to where sometimes you're just not able to give every position their own individual person. What I had to do is, because they explained that on the day of shooting, this was actually a live program. So it wasn't like it was a setting where you would just come in and then we would run a script, and then once the script was completed, then we would move on to the next. Well, essentially what was going on was there was a live event going on with the Youth of the Year. There was a live event. And so we had a program that was from 11 to 4. And we had to get every shot that we needed within the 11 to 4 time frame. That was something that was very important to the client and also very important to me, because when it comes to production, staying on time is so important. And no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, I'm not gonna say every time, but maybe 8 out of the 10 times, you run into some hiccups, or somebody might be late, or you might run into issues with the equipment, or, you know, just other things that come along with the production process. And I tell people all the time that production isn't anything but high level problem solving. That's all you do. That's all you do in production. You problem solve, you troubleshoot, you problem solve, you fix issues, and you deliver good products. And after I made the decision that I was gonna be one of the camera ops, I still had to go and have preliminary conversations and figure out who my other main camera op was going to be for the project. So I reached out to about 3 or 4 cinematographers. I had a conversation, I gave them my itinerary on what the event consists of, and as far as, you know, what the vision was, and just kind of wanted to get an idea of, you know, how they would go about shooting it. And this process was interesting for me as well too, because not only did I get to have a one-on-one conversation with the cinematographers, but I also had an opportunity to sort through different individuals' work. And one of the main factors why I chose the cinematographer of choice is because of their ability to narrate. And every cinematographer, they have their own style, they have their own set of equipment, everybody knows how to tell a story, but it's the lenses, it's the angles, it's just the individual as a whole on how they go about telling their story. And so it was cool because I watched about 4 or 5 reels, and then I compared it to the objective that we were trying to accomplish, as far as the narration that they wanted. They wanted a kid-centric, high energy, just a very inclusive video. And so I sat down and I had, within my options, everybody was talented, everybody had great reels, but then more, I was looking at it as some of them had more lifestyle-based edits, some of them had more narrative-based edits. So I knew that I wanted to tell a story. Even though I'm in production and I have a degree in business, I also have a degree in sociology. Sociology being the study of people, that is a key factor that goes into storytelling. What I wanted to do was, nothing against my fellas, nothing against my brothers at all, because I feel like men tell great stories as well too, but I had to have a woman-led staff, just because motherhood, interacting with children, I needed a soft narrative. That kind of aided into my decision of me choosing the cinematographer of choice, you know, just trying to make sure that I'm able to pull out the best narrative that I'm looking for as the director. And by me being in an environment and working with a team already that's led by women, I've just been able to learn so much from them and just understand. They have like a third eye, like they're just able to see things from a nurturing and loving standpoint. And so that was something that, just by my previous experiences, helped me make a future decision. And so, you know, moving forward, I definitely aspire to work with all of the cinematographers that I reached out to, just because if I reached out to them, I like their work. Essentially, I like their work. But, you know, each project is tailored specifically for different individuals. And so I feel like when you're staffing teams and putting crews together, you shouldn't, even though you're comfortable with people, you should always look for that new person or look for something that goes against the grain of what you originally always go for, just because they might have the idea that sparks something that you never even thought about. We end up, putting the budget together, the budget ended up getting approved. I got the staff together, and then outside of cinematographer, the last piece that I had to do was get the behind the scenes person. And the first behind the scenes person that I wanted to reach out to, they weren't available. I had to, pivot and figure out who was available for it. And the cinematographer actually referred somebody. Happened to be a fellow Rattler, so gang, shout out to FAMU. I already know Rattlers do it the best, so you gotta go with home team. And so pretty much the whole team was, gang. But, you gotta go home team. I knew that as I transitioned into doing these projects and being more of in a corporate space and working towards the rebrand, and one thing that I wasn't doing the best of is I wasn't documenting the process. So I was putting out finished products. I was, people were able to see the people who I was collabing and working with, and those things were great. People want to see the authentic story. They want to see it cultivated from beginning to end. They want to see what worked, what didn't work, what struggles you had. Like, people don't want to just see a ready-made process. And when it comes to production, so many people are posting the wins, but what's the point of posting the wins when nobody has anything to compare it to? You have to have balance. You have to have balance in the story. Like any movie you watch, it might start off bad, you get a climax, and then boom, it ends off good. Or it starts off good, you get a climax, and then it ends off sad. Or you gotta have balance, because that's what makes a story a story. I've charged myself with saying, hey, even if I have to make the investment myself out of my own pocket, I need somebody there to document the process. Also too, for me personally, just from a manifestation standpoint, I feel like a lot of my dreams and manifestations are starting to come to fruition, because not only am I vocalizing them, but I also now have tangible materials that I could refer to. I could go back in this BTS footage and I can look at me on set directing. I can look through my emails and look at the preliminary conversations. I can go back and I can look at the invoices. I can look at the estimates. I have these tangible things that I can go back and on the days when I might feel like things might not be going my way, or is this dream working? Like, I have tangible things now versus me just wishing and wanting. I had to realize, for anybody out there that might be or at that stage in their process when it comes to production or just life or entrepreneurship as a whole, the plan's not gonna work unless you work the plan. I started Just Create the Brand. I started Just Create the Brand for me, because it was the message to myself that to just create, to just start, by me being an overthinker and me being a perfectionist and me wanting everything to be so perfect before I start. I realized that if I don't take the initial step, if I don't just create, then at the end of the day, I'll never make anything. And so it was times where I went 6 months to a year and I'm sitting on this grand idea and I'm watching other people do it. I'm watching people take that leap, that step, and realize that it doesn't have to be perfect. People don't necessarily even want perfection. They just want to see somebody having the courage to go out and do it. I say all that to say that I'm extremely blessed that I'm able to see this stuff, because just at one point in time, I wasn't able to. So now we fast forward to, I've staffed the whole staff for the project, and now we have to transition into scouting. So we had our conversations about who's going to be on the staff. Now we go into the day of location scouting. Anybody that's doing a project if you have the ability to pre-scout the location, take advantage of it. And for me, it was very important, especially by it being the first major project that I worked with the cinematographer. I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page from a cinematic standpoint. And it's funny because how I even met the cinematographer that I chose was she was working on a previous project at the Content House. And we happened to, introduce ourselves to each other, and we had, a conversation. We aligned on a lot of ideas. She explained to me, what stage she was in production and the things that she was aspiring to do. And then I explained the same thing, vice versa. We exchanged contacts and it just went from there. One of the main things that I love about production is like you never know who you're gonna meet on set, or you never know how one small conversation can transition into a big partnership down the line, or an opportunity, or even just being your authentic self. They be like, man, that man was cool on set. Like, let's refer him because he was cool. He was vibing. Like, I like the way he do X, Y, Z. And that's kind of how the relationship happened with me and the cinematographer. So we got to the location. They gave us a walkthrough of the location. It was pretty dope too, because we shot the social media campaign at the Papa John's Center down at the Battery in Atlanta, Georgia, next to the Brave Stadium. When you go inside, go up these elevators and you come out the elevator, and they have this modernized space, and everything's Papa John themed. So you come out, the doors open up, you got the Papa John sign right here, and then you go in, you gotta have a key card, and then they got the Papa John boxes on the wall. They got like the vending machines, they got their, they have a kitchen down low, then they have like meeting areas. You go upstairs, and then once you go upstairs, there's lounge areas, they have a test kitchen, and then like more other meeting areas. So it was just cool because we were able to scout the location, and shout out to my girl Golda. She helped us every step of the way. It just gave us an opportunity to go in, frame up things that we needed to frame. We brought the camera with us. We were able to get preliminary photo and just kind of map out all of the shots that we were intending to do so that we could put the best schedule together to accomplish the objective at hand, which was to shoot 2 separate social media campaigns with a limited amount of time. And they wanted us to have a smaller production team. And so that was one of the requests. Imagine having to do more with less. The way I staffed the crew, I knew that even though I was doing the production and still directing, I still had to get my hands dirty. I still had to move equipment. I still had to move lights and things like that, because it's just all hands on deck. And I think one of the main things that directors, producers, DPs, just anybody in production as a whole have to understand is that you can't ever get to a point where you're bigger than getting your hands dirty, or afraid to get down and get with the nitty and gritty. Because if I was to the point where I was like, oh, well, no, I hired somebody to do that, so they need to do that. Yeah, it would have got done, but how efficient would it have been? Also, too, you have to know your personnel. It wouldn't have made sense for me to have them do any heavy lifting. So let's get in there. Let's figure out, okay? And then this also goes into preliminary questions as far as what do we need moved first? What needs to be set up first? How can I help you in this moment? It's pretty cool because normally when I'm directing projects, or, they come to me after all of the preliminary conversations are had and all the logistics are mapped out, and they say, hey, this is the vision, this is what we're going for, this is how we need to look on camera. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. But this time, I was doing a little bit of everything. This gave me more grace and understanding of what other people's positions consist of. And I feel like once you get in the position where you're working multiple positions, then it helps you not only get better at your position, but then it helps you have a level of grace and understanding when you're communicating and dealing with other individuals as well too. But we finished doing scouting the location. That was the day before the shoot. I went, and in my head, I was like, well, you know what? This is a this is a big shoe, you know, it's good, it's part of rebrand. I said, I'm about to go get some merch. I had already been working on the new merch design. As you can see, this is one of the test hoodies right here. We just trying to narrow it down to the ones we want. Shout out to my boy DC, Darian Colbert. If you don't know who that is, I will make sure that his link is down low. Another FAMU Rattler, great illustrator, designer, web developer. We had been working on my rebrand for a couple months now, and I had been talking to him since I was in LA, and I had always told him that I wanted to work with him when I got, you know, the funds and got in the position to do so. Everything just kind of fell in line because not only was I able to get the rebrand done, but it came at a time where I was blessed with bigger opportunities. So from a visual standpoint, it just helped me present myself in a way that I always wanted to present myself professionally. And so I was very grateful about that. So you know what? I'm about to go get some merch made. I went and got some merch made. I got some hoodies, got some shirts. I was like, no, we finna go in there like a team. We finna go in there and let them know we really came to step. After that, it came Wednesday. So Wednesday was actually like the day of the shoot. But the night before, of course, you have to make sure your batteries are charged. You got all your equipment, your pre-work stuff. So I got all that taken care of. And then, you know, the next morning, Stephanie comes in town. So she flies in from Orlando, and now this is the part where not only do I have to make sure that I'm okay, but me being in a position, being the producer for the project as well too, now it's time to make calls. Like, okay, hey, boom, is the BTS person ready? Yeah, do they have everything that they need? Do they have any questions? Are they prepared? Check that off the list. And then now we go into the cinematographer. Do they have everything that they need? Calling them, making sure that they're having a good morning, that they're on point, they have the proper address, they know how to get there, they know the call time. It was just different because I can't say everybody, but it's just different when your ass is on the line. Like, it's just different. Like, when you go in there and you just working on behalf of yourself, you like, okay, well, I got my section, my stuff good, let's get it. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't have the luxury of doing that. So we stopped to grab some breakfast from Waffle House, and then we got to the location. I surprised everybody with their shirts, and everybody put on their shirts. They had to just create merch on, and we were in the lobby, and the representative from the Boys and Girls Club came, and they were like, oh my gosh, you guys are so organized, you look like a team. And that was something that made me feel really good on the inside, because I've always been a team player, or I'm very big in sports, so I'm always been with uniformity, or like just moving one step at a time, like as a team, just collectively. So seeing 4 or 5 people, you know, with my company shirt on, and me having it on, and me working in this space, I think that aspect of it was what really like made me feel good. But what really made me feel good was the fact that not only was I blessed with the opportunity, but I actually was doing it. And I think that was the part that was like so surreal for me, because as I'm moving the equipment up into the location where we're getting prepared to set up, as I navigated throughout the whole day, I would look up and I see somebody standing behind the camera with Just Create the Brand on. I got a BTS person with Just Create the Brand on. I got a PA talking to the vendor. It's just a surreal moment, because you have to get to the point in life where you're just ecstatic about the small wins. Sometimes you want to get to the end of the process, and we want to see our name on the big screens, and we want to just get that big win. But when you get to the point where you're able to love the small wins just as much as you love the big wins, the process becomes so beautiful, and everything just makes you smile, everything you enjoy. And then it doesn't even seem like work. It just seems like it's like a relationship. Yeah, relationships aren't perfect. Some days are better than others, but when the going is good, it's going good, you know. And I've learned to just sit in those moments where it's good and just really enjoy that moment, and not be pessimistic about it, and not be like, hell, well, what's gonna go wrong next or any of those things. Like, there was just no need for that. So we get to the first room where we're getting ready to set up. How the day was going to be set up is we were going to shoot the staff's interviews first, and then once the students arrived, we were going to do some test shots and get some B-roll footage of the students making pizzas in the test kitchen. And then we're going to transition back into the interview section. So let me run it back right quick. Let me catch you guys up to speed. Overview of the project. You know how you have what ingredients make a good pizza? Well, essentially the campaign was what ingredients make a good leader. What we were doing is we were interviewing adults, part of Boys and Girls Club. We were interviewing them and getting their statement on what their thoughts were on what ingredients made a good leader. And then we also were interviewing Boys and Girls executives and Papa John's executives, asking them as well too what their opinion was on what ingredients make a good leader. Once we finished that, I also took all of the students, took them into the test kitchen, and they gave them an opportunity to make their own pizza. They lined up in the test kitchen and they had the individual doughs on the rack. Some kids made pizza with heavy cheese, some all meat lovers, all veggie, mixture of both. And then once they made their pizza, they were able to turn it around and push it themselves into the oven. So they got to watch the pizza go up throughout the whole process. And then once the pizza got finished, they got their own box, with the name on it, and then they were able to, get the pizza if they like. And, some students were able to put garlic sauce on it, or, whatever they prefer for their pizza. So we had to just make sure that we were staying on time, for one, because the students had to leave at 4:00. We had multiple setups as well too. So we had 2 setups for the interviews that were taking place in one room, and then we had a setup in the test kitchen. It's crazy because originally we were going to have 3 different setups in 3 different locations, and sometimes in production you just have to pivot. And so we realized in the beginning that there was no way we were going to be able to set up 3 different setups in the time frame that we had and get everybody. So we had to make a decision on the fly, on set, to say, okay, well, how can we maximize the time and the space that we have? So we end up using one room for 2 sets of interviews, but we just shifted the angle, shifted the look, and we had more of a whiteboard school type feel for the students. And then we had a corner that was dedicated just specifically for Papa John's on the other side of the room. And so we had Papa John's branded material behind them to, create an inclusive aesthetic for them. And then we bounced back and forth. It was cool because we knocked out the first set of interviews with the executives. And, me, anytime I go somewhere, I always try to have some type of FAMU branded material. My FAMU book bag was sitting on the couch, and one of the executives walked in and they said, "Who went to FAMU?" So they went to FAMU, I went to FAMU. It was like, we Rattlers, we right here. Come to find out, the Papa John executive was a FAMU alumni. That just goes back to what I was saying as far as being on set, that you never know who's a part of your tribe. You never know who knows who. So that's why it's just so important to put your best foot forward, or to always just kind of put yourself in a position for small conversation starters. It was just so cool to see, because you had 2 fellow Rattlers that was on the production team. You had another fellow Rattler that was at a high level position at Papa John's. It was just so surreal. So we end up exchanging, contact information and being able to reach out and things of that sort. That was a dope experience that I had being on set. One thing that I learned and realized, if you are a director, cinematographer, DP, just anybody that's in production and you have the opportunity to be in a corporate space, please, please, please work on your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn account is like your Facebook and Instagram account in the corporate space. Because when I was making these connections and I was connecting with these different professionals, they were like, hey, follow me on LinkedIn. What's your LinkedIn profile? Nobody was like, oh, let me see your Instagram. Let me see your Facebook. Of course, they're not gonna ask for your website because your LinkedIn should have your website link on there. But that's just a piece of information that I definitely picked up on and just paid very close attention to. If you aspire to get in the corporate space or you are currently working in a corporate space, update your LinkedIn account, because just like Instagram and Facebook, that's another means of showcasing yourself. That even made me go back and look at my LinkedIn account and realize that I need to revamp it in other ways as well too, because yes, great relationships and good work goes a long way, but presenting yourself properly goes even further, because if you have that amazing line of work, but then also you're putting it in places where people can see you, that's something that's totally different as well too, because you could have the best work in the world, but if nobody's able to find you, if you're not searchable, if you're not able to be seen when somebody's looking for you, there's so many opportunities that'll pretty much pass you by essentially. We shot the interview, and before we were getting into transition into the other room, we ran into another hiccup. Well, one of the main hiccups of the production. We went 2.5 weeks prepping everything, making sure everything was good, and we end up renting a camera for this shoot. The camera that we rented from the camera rental place, as we were setting up, you know, we getting the tripod together, we putting the lenses on. Me and Kobe are just noticing that this camera keeps overheating. Me, I'm thinking, okay, maybe we just had it on too long, or maybe it was a bad dummy battery, or just the settings were wrong or something like that. Well, no, there was something actually wrong with the camera. For me, this was one of the first moments where I had to stay calm and collected. I had to be a leader in the situation, and I had to pivot and figure out a solution, because at the end of the day, I'm here. It's the day of shooting. We can't do this over. We have to be done by 4. And you mean to tell me my secondary camera is overheating? So we had to come up with a game plan. We had to transition from having 2 angle interviews to 1 angle interviews, just because, and it kind of worked in our favor as well too, because even the way that we were putting the video together from a post-production standpoint, we didn't have enough time to have multiple angles in there anyway, and it probably would have been a little bit of overkill. So I'm never gonna say that was a good thing that the camera was overheating. It was a terrible thing, because we paid to use that camera and it didn't work, which we notified them about. But also too, it just was just a prime example of how you could have everything planned out and something still can go left. And it's just how you adapt and how you pivot that's going to really determine the success level of your production. So when we made that change, nobody knew about it, just me and the cinematographer. We figured it out. Once we got done with the first set of interviews, we had to transition to the test kitchen. And the only part that kind of sucked was the fact that, okay, now I said, you know what, well, I'll man the second camera, because we needed to get additional B-roll shots from multiple angles, and it was a lot of kids. So I'm recording with the second camera, and I'm using it, and it's like, I get the perfect shot, and then literally the camera overheats. So now I'm having to, in real time, pretty much time the moments in which I'm going to record, and hope that I'm not in the middle of a great shot and the camera don't shut off on me. So like I'm literally like shooting in it, and I'm like, okay, this looks good, this is good. Don't cut off. And literally one time I had the perfect shot, everything was going good. I was focusing on a logo, and literally mid-shot, camera cuts off. So I'm like, okay, how are we gonna maneuver this? But I just, took it on the chin. There's only so much you could do at that time. You can't go get another camera. You can't stop the shoot. You just gotta go through it. Sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. Sometimes you got to just take what you can get. Small wins, like I talked about, small wins. We figured out a solution, and I said, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm finna push this camera to its limit, and I am going to get whatever I can get. That's what I did. I've even had to turn the camera off a little bit, let it cool off for a second. And then it was hard too, because I have my own personal camera that I could have used, but I gave that camera to the behind the scenes person because I wanted some additional photos being taken. To not cause a fuss or a red flag or anything like that, I just let her keep the camera. I was like, okay, well, I know what the project needs. The cinematographer knows what the project needs, and we're the only two dealing with this issue. So there's no need to alert anybody else. There's no need to cause any more chaos than it already was going on. So, like I said, I literally had the cinematographer, I had Kobe on camera A, and I was letting her take lead, getting the main B-roll shots that we needed. I was literally like a fly on the wall. I'm like, boom, turn it off. Over here, turn it off. I'm like, this is crazy. But, that's also part of the process that I love too, because it's like, what you gonna do? You either gonna put up or you gonna shut up. And I think that's one of the things that I miss about sports. And I think that's something that has trying to transition and rolled over in production. For example, football. It's fourth down, you need to make a stop. You either gonna make the stop or you ain't. In the fourth quarter, you playing basketball, you need to make a shot. You either gonna make the shot or you not. Those moments of pressure really determine, is you gonna hold or you gonna fold? And so I just knew for a fact that given that opportunity, I wasn't about to fold no matter what. That was interesting. I enjoyed that process. And it was crazy because I wanted to make me a piece so bad, but I can't be on set having a team of people and then we going on a schedule and I'm talking about make me a pizza. So I didn't get to make me a pizza, but my team did. They were able to make the pizza and they did make me one. So shout out the gang. They looked out for me. That was pretty much all the lunch we had that day too. But they were able to make pizzas, and it was just fun just watching the kids be in their environment. They were doing TikToks, they were dancing, they was opening up their boxes, showing their custom pizza, the pies that they made. And then they was just sitting around having a good time. So that part was cool in the midst of all that chaos. So they finished making the pizzas, and how it originally was supposed to happen is we were supposed to transition into a Q&A segment, but because of scheduling and how time was really not necessarily on our side, we end up having to cut that whole segment because we needed to get additional interviews. And outside of getting the additional interviews, we still had to shoot for Project 2. So for Project 2, it was going to be 5 to 6 kids, however slices of pizzas comes in a box. They were sitting at a table. One of the kids were going to grab the pizza, and they were going to bring the pizza over to the table. They were going to slide the pizza onto the table, and as they slide the pizza onto the table and open the box, we were going to have an over-the-top shot, the camera looking down, and each kid was going to pull a slice of pizza out. And how the campaign is set up is, as a piece of pizza is pulled, then a piece of information is presented on the screen as well too. So it's like a two-part. Getting the visual of the pizza slices, but you're getting the information that goes with the campaign as well too. So that part was pretty interesting because we literally had maybe 45 minutes max, but a hard 30 minutes from not rushing the kids to hurry up and eat their pizza, but having to set up the location, pick the kids that were going to be a part of the shoot, then set up the lighting, and also in the midst of doing all of this, directing the talent and letting them know their placement as well too. another part of the process that was challenging, but also was fun and worth it as well too, to just know that there's no way you can say that you're a director and not think that you have to master the art of communicating. And so in that moment, I had to make sure that the team was good, that we knew that, hey, we only have 30 minutes to get this sequence shot. It was about 5 to 6 shots. So we had 30 minutes to do 5 to 6 shots. So I needed to make sure that C-stands were transferred over, cameras were prepared, tripod, sticks was up, and all of those things. But outside of that, then I had to leave them, make sure that we were on schedule. So I had to check in with the PA, I had to check in with Stephanie. And then outside of that, I then had to transition over to the main talent, which was this young lady who was a part of the youth program. And I had to, you know, explain to her the process of her grabbing the pizza box, sliding it onto the table, opening it up, and then how the sequence was set up. We literally had to do 2 shots. Then once we got done with those 2 shots, reset, do a whole new set camera-wise, and then get the remaining shots. Transitioning into that was so hectic, but we end up getting it done. We end up getting the over-the-top shot done. By the time we finished that over-the-top shot, we needed to then break down and transition back to another room. So in the midst of doing that, we literally had maybe 5 to 7 minutes to do all of that. And you're talking about, outside of the BTS person, which I love Sade. She did an amazing job. And she even got to the point where she put the BTS camera down for a little bit and just jumped in and just helped on the production set, which was a preliminary conversation that we had and she was open to, and I appreciated her greatly for that. But sometimes it's all hands on deck. So we had all hands on deck. We rushing, we get ready to set up for the final interview parts. And at this point, it was maybe 3:15. So it's 3:15. The project is over at 4 p.m. because that's when the bus leaves and the students have to leave. And we literally had 3 executives to shoot and 2 students, or it might have been 3 students and 2 executives, either or. We rushing, we setting up. In between, I'm trying to eat a slice of pizza, like, cause there's no time to sit down and do any of those things. Sat back up and we ended up having to do the Papa John's executives first. So we did the Papa John's executives, and I'm a big fan of continuity. Like, I love continuity. Continuity, like, it has to stay consistent. And that's also the perfectionist and Virgo in me, that, like, I want it to be consistent. So realizing that we're running into a time crunch, coming to the realization that I'm probably not gonna be able to do this other camera setup, I was in a tough position, because for me, I'm like, no, there's no way that we're not gonna finish this the way that we started. So Stephanie was like, look, we only have 25 minutes. We have this how many interviews left, and you can't change anything. So what do? I still change it. I still change it. Like, just because I'm like, listen, I'll take the L on this one, but at the end of the day, I'll need this footage to stay consistent, and I want it to look a certain type of way. And it was just so funny, because those are those risk-taking moments, like going back to sports. If you play football or basketball, taking that chance and going for the steal, or like if you play DB, taking that chance and going for the interception, it's like, it's do or die. It's either this is gonna go really, really right and people are gonna love you for it, or this is gonna go really, really wrong and you're gonna be the bad guy. You're gonna be the reason why everything went left. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take it on the chin. Whatever come with it, come with it. And so I was like, you know what? I told the cinematographer, I said, look, luckily enough though, we didn't need to do any more Papa John's interviews. And so the change worked in our favor, but I said, change it, let's go. So Stephanie was outside, she was getting the next person. I said, change it, let's go. So real quick, we switched up, we changed it, we got the set, and literally as we were like putting the final adjustments on the tripod and everything like that, they came back in and they were like, wait, I told you don't change it. I'm like, listen, it's done. Like, let's go, let's get it. And like, sometimes you gotta take a risk. Like, if you're not willing to take a risk, production is not for you. This is not the game for you, because sometimes you have to take a risk, because status quo does not get it done in production. If you think you're gonna just have the same routine all the time, if you think that you're not gonna take no chances, you're in the wrong spot. I'm gonna just tell you that off rip. But it was also cool because my preparation in the beginning helped me at the end, because I had one external mic that, you know, we were using to mic everybody else up. I had purchased another one and we weren't using it throughout the whole day, but when it came towards the end of that production day, it gave me the luxury of being able to pre-mic people. So now with the secondary mic, we ripped that out of the box. And so as we were having people sit down and do their interview, then boom, we got the next person, we have them pre-mic'd. We got them pre-mic'd up. So now it was an easier transition from person to person because of just one small thing that I didn't necessarily need, but it helped me because I did go on and take that extra precautionary step. So sometimes you might not understand why you put in that extra step in place, or you might not be like, okay, well, I already have one system of recording sound, or I already might have one system of recording video. Why do we need a secondary? In production, you need a secondary everything. Secondary computer, secondary sound, secondary memory card, secondary, whatever you get as secondary, get it, because it's technology and you never know. I could have had a mic that wasn't working. I could have had a battery go dead. I could have had any of those things. So just that small precautionary step just helped so much. And we end up knocking out the interviews. We finished at 4, I think it was like 4:04 or something like that. It was like 4:04, 4:14. It was somewhere in between there, but the team did an amazing job. It was a very, very intense environment, because Golda, the Boys and Girls representative, she was pushing because she's like, hey, we need to get this done. I'm pushing the team like, hey, let's get this done. You know, everybody was just working together, pushing. Then you got other executives coming in. They want to see how the project's going because everybody's, you know, saying good things and raving about it. And so it literally is like 3-4 seconds left on the clock and everybody's watching. So now I'm like, oh, okay, it feels like we back in sports again. Like this fourth quarter is go time. You gonna hold or you gonna fold. I ain't gonna lie, I love that pressure just because the better you get in those situations. Now, I'm not gonna say put yourself in those situations all the time, but the better you get in those situations, your composure level increases. And I think there's nothing like being composed, because you could have all these strange feelings on the inside, stomach be churning, be nervous, be sweating, be doing all these other things. But if you have your composure level intact, then your team is just more prone to following you, and you have your success level of getting the job done just increases so much. Because if you flustered, now your team flustered, now the people who have paid you to do this job, they're getting flustered, and like the anxiety level in the room is just increasing, and then it does no good for anybody. We got the project done. It was good. It was a great day outside of the camera overheating. We had no issues. And overall, it was pretty dope. I'm definitely throwing some, I say all that to say, thank you to everybody who was a part of the process, whether you were on set, off set, pre-production, post-production, any of those things. And even if just watching this video and supporting, I just want to thank everybody, because I'm not able to do any of these things without the team that helped me, and even the people who were on the team, just giving me advice, giving me conversations that I need to encourage me, to just put me in the right position. I just want to tell everybody that I thank them and I appreciate them. This is just funny to me as well too. This is probably the most I've talked in a long time. Outside of being on set and in production. So y'all just stick with me. I appreciate my community. I'm looking to give you guys more content, so just hold me to it. And then, you know, anything that you would like to see from me or just create the brand, send us a DM, write in the comments, send us an email. My goal is to share my experience more, communicate more with my community, just be a resource in any way that I can. I'm to the point now in my career where I'm really starting to understand what being a resource looks like. And I definitely want to continue to get better at that, because it don't have to look perfect. Being a resource is just being there, just offering support. So sometimes support doesn't look pretty at all. I just want to say thank y'all. Make sure that you like, subscribe, tap in, follow me if you're not following me on Just Create the Brand on Instagram. I'm gonna do a little bit better on TikTok and all of those things, but I appreciate you. It was love, and your boy is out.